Okay, so everyone, welcome to the little talk on do you need to function your life? So this is part of our psychic circle today. So feng shui is actually an ancient art of balancing what they call like heaven, earth, and like human. Okay, that's a traditional sort of like understanding of it. Okay, but but feng shui, I see it as more of like a philosophy because it's really about the harmonization of the environment that we live in with our lives. Okay? Feng shui is actually about energy, so which is why I find that it is a very good blend with what I do with energy healing and like energy reading like as well. Okay, so why do I like feng shui? Because I find that living in a harmonious environment can actually benefit all of us. Okay? Imagine if the place that you're living in energetically feels nice and light, definitely physically, emotionally, and mentally, you will be much like better off. And when you're in a really good like state, then in any decisions that you make, as well as if you need to adjust like your mindsets, you will actually be able to get better outcomes. Okay, so that's why they always say that you if you actually sort of like pay attention to things like feng shui, you might actually have a better chance of having success and happiness, abundance, and like love in your life. Okay, so one way of harmonizing like energies, which we also do address in feng shui, is to adjust our intimate environment. So this is where, for example, we do key activities like sleeping, so like our door, our bed, sorry, or like the entry to our homes, which is like the main door, or the desk that we always like work at. And right now, like with COVID, this is especially important because a lot of us are spending a lot of time working in your homes rather than in offices. Okay, so uh currently I think for feng shui, the type of feng shui that I practice, we actually track feng shui energy changes based on time and space. Okay, now, so some people ask me, is feng shui still relevant like in the modern like society, because it is an ancient art, and and they read a lot about it, but and sometimes they find that the cures are a little bit too um traditional or tacky like for them. So a lot of people actually ask me, do they really still need to do feng shui like now? Is just energy healing or like practicing spirituality not enough? Okay, so I say that yes, feng shui is relevant. And so one of the reasons why is also because, so I asked one of my architect friends who basically designed this like resort on feng shui principles like in Suzhou. So I asked him, do you get feng shui counsel like for your projects? And he actually said that they do, because a lot of clients actually asked if they incorporated like feng shui ideas like into their design. So this is actually Calvin. So Calvin's company also designed Suntec City. So Suntec City is, I think if you live in Singapore, everybody like knows where Suntec City is. Suntec City is actually designed by his company with emphasis on Chinese like feng shui. So if you were to go to Suntec City, you'll find that the 5 buildings in the convention center actually look like a left hand if you're looking at it from an aerial view. Okay. And the Fountain of Wealth, which is right in the middle of it, actually looks like a golden ring in the palm of the hand. Okay. Now, some other places that actually do a lot of feng shui, for example, if you see here a very young Donald Trump in business, politics and business. So Trump actually applies feng shui principles in his buildings as well. And he actually hires this grandmaster called Pan In. And Pan In actually advised him to put a globe on one of his I think on his like main Trump tower. And it was only after he placed that globe that his whole like business turned around and he became the kind of like wealthy billionaire that he is like today. And you can see here, this is like the architects. I think it's the architects designers like a magazine, and they are also talking about the rationale of like feng shui in architect, and even in sort of like the stock market, feng shui principles are also applied. So as you can see, a lot of people actually do feel that feng shui is relevant, because otherwise, they wouldn't be like using it. And also at the same time, you think about it, living, or like, why do we like want to live in our own space and all? Obviously you want like a space that you can feel comfortable in, and in order to feel comfortable, you want to eliminate like all factors that creates like discomfort. So that is actually the basic philosophy of feng shui already there. Now, uh there is no perfect house, okay? So I've never met like anyone who bought like a house and like all the areas, including the toilets, are like amazing energy, okay? But you can make it like feel good, okay? But generally, as houses comes, there's always a corner that's not very good, another corner that is like really like good. And what you try to do is you try to balance it. So you try to remedy the corners that are not so good, and you try to enhance the ones that are really good, okay? So if you feel like uncomfortable in your house, or there is a particular part of your house that you feel really bothered by, or you feel energetically there are some issues, then you might actually need like sort of feng shui, okay? In Singapore, a lot of people are interested to know about the feng shui of a house before they buy it. And if the house has really bad feng shui, most people would reconsider buying it, whether or not it's like really cheap, okay? So some common feng shui questions that I always get when I do the feng shui for my clients is, one, where is a good direction, like for their head to be facing when they're in a bed? Because we spend up to 8 hours like sleeping. So obviously, if you're going to be spending 8 hours in that much, the same bed and a position, then you want to make sure that it is the best position for you to be in. Okay. Some questions also, what if my bald spot is in the toilet? Okay. What if my main door is facing a wall? This means like when you open like the door, I think in some of the condominiums, when you open like the door, there isn't like an open space, and instead what you see is a wall directly in front of it. So in traditional feng shui, that's not ideal. So some people will ask me, what happens if they encounter that? Is there something that can be done about it? Also, what if their toilet door is facing their kitchen door? Because the kitchen is where you prepare food, and the toilet is where you do like other stuff. So therefore, some people are concerned, okay? And of course, like a lot of people are always concerned if there is a temple near to them, either in the front, back, or the side of the house. So some people feel it's bad feng shui, but there are actually things that can be done. So these are questions that feng shui can actually be applied to. Okay. Now, these are questions that feng shui cannot answer. Okay. So for example, somebody will ask me, why get rich? Okay. Okay. This is a joke. And thanks to my feng shui partner, Terry, who actually did up this slide for me. So questions about whether you get rich and how rich you will get, feng shui cannot answer these questions, because a lot of it depends on what you make of yourself as well. But we can help you en route to getting rich with feng shui and other factors. Okay, so here are what the other factors are. Okay, so based on ancient texts, this is what is like important. Okay, so I decided to share this because a lot of people always ask me, oh, if my luck's not so good, should I change my name? Okay, so if you look at this particular pyramid, you will understand that the name change is very low on the priority. Okay, so if you look from down to up, okay, very much like the Maslow hierarchy, the first most important one is actually your birth chart, which is your destiny. So this is basically like when you're born, the year, the month, the day, and the hour that you're born in. What does that cause your birth chart to look like? So that's basically your pazi. Okay. And of course, apart from like your birth chart is also your luck. So your birth chart and your luck will determine how good luck you are. So for example, if your birth chart is super good, or you are super like lucky, then you may not necessarily need feng shui and you're still okay. But if your birth chart is not ideal, or your luck is like not good, then you will need feng shui, because feng shui is third on the list of what can actually affect your chances of success, like in life, and your chances for love, happiness, etc. Okay. After feng shui is actually the accumulation of merit. Okay, that means things that you do that creates goodwill and like good energy, positive energy, basically. Okay. The fifth is actually education. So you know everything that our parents tell us about you have to study like more, etc., may not be that off the mark because it comes five, and only number six is your name. So your name is actually six in line. So therefore, if your birth chart is bad, your luck is not very good, you didn't do feng shui, you didn't bother to accumulate merit, you don't really educate like yourself, then changing your name is not exactly going to help you. Okay. Then apart from the name, there is also your face. So this is employed very often in like face like reading. Okay. So if you, for example, like decide to go for plastic surgery so that you can have a more prosperous face, or if you have a mole somewhere where you were told that it's not very good luck and you want to go and remove it, you know, please take note that it's only the seventh in place. So if everything else is done well, you may not need to be too concerned about what your facial features are. Okay. And then eighth is faith, followed by noblemen, meaning people who help you. And the final one is actually taking care of your own health. Okay. Oops. Okay. So there are some groups of people that needs particularly to feng shui their lives. So who are these people? Okay. So one, people whose 八字 or their birth charts are extremely unbalanced. Okay. So how do you know if your 八字 is balanced or not balanced? Please go to this link here, fengshuicapital.life/ 八字-calculator/ and you can chart your chart for yourself. To get the full chart, you need actually to have your birth time like ready. Okay. So if your 八字 is extremely sort of unbalanced, then you may need to sort of like feng shui, because an extremely unbalanced 八字 means that you are subjected to the influences of the external environment, and you can be more sort of like sensitive and therefore destabilized and more like erratic. So having a harmonious sort of environment to live in is even more important like for you. Okay. Also, if you have a weak constitution, so for example, if you're born with certain hereditary sort of like issues which cause you to be very weak, your immune system is low, etc., then you might want to look at sort of like a 八字, because having a sickness like a sector which is very strong can actually affect you like badly. Okay. More than 2 traveling horse in 八字. So traveling horse in a like a 八字 is actually defined as energies of disruption. So in your birth chart, if you actually have more than 2 like traveling horses, then what may happen is that you are subjected to more change and disruption. So all the more you need to stabilize the environment that you live in. Okay. So again, if you want to know whether you have traveling horses, you can actually find out by going to a 八字 calculator. Now, if the very young or the very elderly are also like vulnerable, so therefore, if you have very young children at home or very elderly people living at home, you may actually want to consider doing a feng shui for a house so that you can put them in the best sector for their health. The fifth category are people whose luck is actually bad between the 20s to the 50s. So why did I specify 20s to the 50s? Is because this is the most productive years. So these are usually the years whereby we are actually sort of like working or trying to make something like of ourselves. So if your luck is really bad during that time, it is not just like a struggle, but it can also impact like your health and even like your love life and everything basically really badly. So while you can't really do anything about the luck, you can actually use feng shui to try to balance or neutralize it, or even enhance some of the better aspects. Okay. The last category of people are people who face sort of physical issues such as like infertility or even like issues like depression, then you may want to consider doing feng shui for your home. Okay, so why is because feng shui done in a timely sort of like manner can actually elevate a lot of like personality, physical, emotional issues, you know. And also when opportunities come knocking at your door, if you are in a good feng shui space, you're more likely to make a decision which is right for you. Okay. Okay, so here are some common myths like about feng shui. So some people, this is actually from some of my clients who have actually asked me this. Okay, so some people ask me the more expensive sort of like traditional cures more powerful. So the answer is actually like no. Okay, because it has nothing to do with the price of whatever you bought. All feng shui remedies are based on elements. So in fact, I often advise like my clients who find that the traditional feng shui cures and remedies are actually very tacky. I actually try to replace it with some modern, more artistic or more creative sort of like remedies. Because if you go based on the elements, you can actually find good sort of replacement. Okay. Is a feng shui audit forever? Unfortunately, it is not, because the school of feng shui that I use, we actually sort of like shift the energy shift every 20 years. So we take a note of the energetic shift and time as well. So therefore, we do not consider the feng shui audit as lasting forever, but it can last for many years. Okay. Now this one. So somebody has asked me if they buy like a really cheap house because, like, for example, someone has been murdered in it, or it has been it is haunted, or some really bad stuff have happened in it. Can we apply feng shui and feng shui it to a super level? Unfortunately, the answer is no. Okay, the answer is no, because if a lot of things have happened there, there's definitely one sector where the feng shui is really bad. So unless you demolish the whole house and re-feng shui the land and rebuild the house, otherwise it's totally, I would, okay, maybe not totally, but almost impossible to just feng shui to a really good level, you know, if a lot of disasters have already happened to it. Okay. However, this question is when people ask me, can a good feng shui house help me to win, for example, the lottery or 4D? Okay, or basically to make a lot of money? Then the answer is actually like yes. Okay, but the feng shui has to align with the owner's like birth chart. Okay. Now, so a lot of people have asked me about the different types of feng shui. So for example, when I go and talk to a client about feng shui, they usually ask me what are the different types of feng shui and which type am I practicing. Okay. So bear in mind that I'm just giving a summary and very brief explanation of like the different types of feng shui. The main feng shui that I do is called flying stars feng shui. So that is where my expertise lies. So for the rest of it, I'm basically just regurgitating information that I have like researched. Okay. And also from some of my friends who actually practice it. So this type of feng shui is called 奇门遁甲. Okay. So 奇门遁甲 is actually about 8 doors, and each door can actually be an opportunity or a disaster. So this school is less used like for feng shui, but more used, for example, if you needed to participate in some, or if you needed to do an activity which is time like sensitive. For example, like the opening of like your business, or the opening of your restaurant, you know, or a negotiation, or like if you are going to a casino and you want to win the most amount of money. Okay, so 奇门遁甲 can actually be used to help increase the chances of like of success. Okay. Why is it seldom used like for feng shui or not commonly used for feng shui is because the doors will change position every 2 hours. So because there is like too much changes, it's really hard to keep track if you're doing it for like your home, because you can't be shifting like things in your home like every 2 hours. Okay. Um so but 奇门遁甲 has been used for example in calculation for like for example you bought a house, you've done the feng shui, you now want to know which hour and direction you should be like symbolically hammering or tapping like the wall for like renovation. So these are actually sort of things that you can use 奇门遁甲 for. Okay. Then the other commonly used one for feng shui is 8 mansions. So the 8 mansion school actually divide people and houses into the east and west group. It's a very simple theory, but it does not consider the time flow factor. So therefore, it lacks a bit of specificity. Okay. However, some people have used it to supplement Flying Star School, which is the one that I do, as well as like other schools. Okay. So this is something that is very popular in like the US. Okay. And in this sort of like black hat feng shui, is based on actually like the 8 mansions, but what it does is the main door is always where reputation and fame is. So all sectors are fixed. It doesn't take into account really the cardinal like direction. So this black hat feng shui, I don't practice it, but it's interesting to see like how feng shui has like developed. Okay. So there is also a landform feng shui which take into account like the landforms like around you. Okay. However, this is really difficult to apply in like cities that we like live in, because for example, you can't exactly like shift the building in front of you just because it's bad feng shui for you. Okay. And then there's also I Ching feng shui, which actually uses hexagrams that you see in I Ching for feng shui audit. Most of the time people use I Ching for divination. Some people actually use it for feng shui, but it is practiced by a lot of older generation masters in mainland China. But because it's really like complicated, it's very hard to teach. And so I think the art has actually been lost like now, or majority of it, of the knowledge has been lost. Okay. So now this Shen Kong Flying Stars is the one that I practice. Okay. And it's based on landforms as well as the compass or time concepts. And we understand that every period lasts for 20 years. And then after 180 years, the energy sort of like recycle. So currently we're in a period of 8. In 2024, we enter the period of 9. So when we talk about like the time shift, what does it mean? It means that every sort of like 20 years, something your prosperous sort of sectors will change. So for example, we're now in a period like 8. So therefore, what happens is that the prosperous sectors are 8, 9, and 1. Okay. In 2024, when we shift into the age of 9, the prosperous sectors will become now 9, 1, and 2. Okay. So with Shen Kong Flying Stars like school, we divide the space into 8 sectors, and then we adjust it according to like the direction that your home is actually facing. And in fact, what happens is that there is a residence feng shui, which is based on the year that your feng shui, the year that your building is built. And then there is the annual like feng shui, which actually looks at how like different stars interact with the existing residence stars. Okay. So if you're interested to know more, you can ask me the question later. So This actually is the most popular school at the moment, and the grandmasters like Raymond Low, which is my grandmaster, and also a famous grandmaster in Singapore, Tan Kun Yong, who owns like Wei Fengshui, and then also of course Joey Yap, and a lot of prominent Hong Kong and Southeast Asian masters also practice this school. Okay. So now let's look up feng shui tips for 2022. Okay. Okay. So this is the annual stars for 2022. So how do you read this chart? So you can see, let's start with, so S is south. Okay. So south, the number 9 arrives in the south like sector. Okay. And number 1 is in the north sector. Okay, west is 7, east is 3. So all, and then these are of course like southwest, northwest, northeast, southeast. Okay, so for this year, which is the water tiger year, the abundant spots are the ones in red. So there are the south, north, and northeast. So those are where the energies are the most like prosperous and like, so basically the best energy. Okay. There is in the southwest something called the Yearbreaker star, and it also happens to land on the True Sickness star. So if you are like already sort of like prone to illnesses, or you have a weak immune system, or you have just gone for like an operation and you need to sort of like recover better, then try to avoid doing key activities in the southwest sector this year. Okay. Um, the northeast sector is what we call the Tai Sui star. So there is a 8 wealth star there at the moment. So it kind of like balances the effects of the Tai Sui. But what we would say is that in the northeast this year, try to avoid hammering or drilling, because usually when you disturb like this particular sort of what we call the Tai Sui star, it can bring accidents, illness, and conflict like to your family. However, with the 8 being positioned there, it helps to sort of like improve like the effects a little bit. But if you do a lot of like heavy renovation or hammering or drilling in that sector, it can actually cause like problems for you. So just to take note. Okay. So if you can if you still decide to go ahead and activate the 8 star here, even though there's a Tai Sui star, you can still do it. But it's just that while you may gain wealth, you may lose something else in return. So very often people gain wealth and lose health, but some people also gain wealth and lose, for example, love. Okay. Okay, and also south and north facing houses will have better luck this year. This year the weather will be a little bit erratic, and so be prepared for like rising food costs. I would suggest that you buy sort of like more travel insurance, because I think there's going to be a lot of accidents and earth disasters, especially in the months of February this year, August, like and September. Okay, so this is some of the feng shui tips. I don't like to give like very general sort of like feng shui tips based on like where you should place things and things like that, because everybody's house like differ. It's just like everybody's birth chart differ. So some of those things that you read where it says that, oh, just place something in the south sector and then it will it will actually sort of like help to bring you wealth and all. It may not technically like be true, because for example, if your if the south sector in your house actually has a disaster star, then and the disaster star is actually the 5 star. So if the south sector in your house have a disaster star around 5, and then you happen to try to and you happen to accidentally activate it by making it a very active space, then you may see less benefit and more sort of like problems. Okay, so if you are serious about like doing putting feng shui elements into your space, I do suggest that you get a professional feng shui person or practitioner to actually do a feng shui audit like for you. Okay, now Okay, so this is the end of like my presentation. So if you are interested, you can follow me on IG at Ermi Psychic. Okay, so now let me just stop share. Okay, so I'm gonna ask Serene to flash the poster. So if you're interested to sort of like understand more about Feng Shui, it is actually a good idea for you to understand about your own birth chart first. So I have modified this is a less technical sort of like 八字 sort of like workshop where we talk about your birth chart and success. And what we actually do is to give a brief introduction of what 八字 is, have a basic characteristics of the different sort of 八字 types. I'll talk about how like the 八字 sort of affects the chart like in your daily life. And also Sabine, can I see the bottom of this? Why do I not? Okay. And also how you can actually gain sort of like success using by truly understanding of like your 八字 and understanding what to enhance. Okay. So if you're interested, you can actually sign up like with Serene like here. Okay. So Serene, you can stop share this. Okay. So now I have one question. Okay. So usually people talk about north and south facing door or living room is good for property buying. I recall we last shared there spirit's attraction if we are along north and south direction. Does that mean a general misconception? Okay. So the answer is yes. Okay. So north and south facing door or living room, generally, in it does not mean that for sure is actually sort of like good, because it also depends on in what age this building is actually built in. So north, and also don't forget in feng shui, right, north and south is not a simple north and south. In fact, north itself is already divided into three sectors itself. So these three sectors will determine like what the configuration or how I divide up like your whole sort of like feng shui. Okay, so this is something which is that people kind of do not like they generalize like too much. Okay, because how we actually look at it is this: if you happen to buy a north and south like facing like door or living room, and the energies are very like prosperous, then even if generally north and south there will be spirits like attraction, but because it's a prosperous area, the energy is too strong, the spirits will actually go around it. Okay, however, if you are having a north and south like facing door, which is built like in an age whereby by the time you know you are living in it, the stars in those sort of sectors are outdated, then the spirits will be able to use it because there isn't a strong like energy to deter them from it. Okay, so I hope that answer like your question. So Fiona asked a question: what if a neighbor is drilling around that sector northeast? Okay, good question. So if you find that your neighbor is drilling in the sector of northeast like of you, okay, then what you want to do is you can actually put what I call a Taishan rock, okay, or crystal like there. Okay, so there are specifics that you need for this. So basically it needs to be about 20 centimeters like high. It needs to be kind of like rounded and sturdy looking. Basically you're trying to imitate like a mini mountain. Okay, one of those amethyst caves don't really work because generally the amethyst caves have got little like amethyst in it, which therefore have little like points, and you don't want the points in a Taishan rock. Okay, so if you have a neighbor that is drilling around like the north like sector, then what you can do is you can actually the northeast sector, you can actually put a Taishan rock in that sector. and that can actually help to stabilize the energy like for you, so that the drilling does not actually cause problems for you. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Fiona. Okay, so okay, so Jens is asking, if we look at our Bazi calculator and the unfavorable directions, does that mean also that we should not be buying property with a door facing that direction? No, because your chart and the feng shui could be very different. Okay, so for example, even if southeast is your unfavorable direction, okay, but if the house facing southeast has very favorable stars in the southeast sector, then you can actually still buy that property, okay, because it doesn't conflict. So your chart, because for example, you're not always standing at your door, and because the unfavorable directions in your Bazi chart just means ideally if you are in a particular position for a while, you should try not to face that direction. But nowadays, as I said, when you look at, let's say if your general Bazi is strong and quite good, or your luck is good, then this favorable unfavorable directions does not really come much into play. Okay, but unfavorable directions can take effect or have more of an effect when your own luck is down. Okay, so no, you can still buy property with the door facing that direction, but you want to make sure that if you are, once you're maybe done the feng shui, just make sure that that particular sector is in a good sector. Okay, generally, how do you know if a place is actually good for you? Because don't forget, feng shui is about harmonization of energy within the space that you're living in. Okay, which means that if you were to step into a house even without doing feng shui and you feel extremely uncomfortable, the feng shui of the place is probably not good for you. So in which case you may want to forget it. Okay, however, if you are stepping in a place and even though it's supposedly facing an unfavorable direction, or even though you have concerns that it's on the north-south line, you may be attracting spirits, etc. But if you step in and you feel really good about it, and you feel attracted to it, then it could actually be good for for feng shui. And again, just to reiterate, right at the beginning of the presentation today, there is no perfect feng shui. Okay, every house, no matter which house it is, will have good and bad sectors. Okay, for people who are really lucky, the bad sectors all fall into places like the toilets or the storerooms or the utility rooms, in which case you don't really have an issue. Houses that we will try to avoid are when the bad sectors are actually in places like the living room or the bedroom, where you have to spend time doing key activities in it. So in which case you would kind of want to avoid that house, but you will also be able to know that's what is happening, because if you step in a house and instantly you feel an oppressive energy, or you feel uncomfortable, or you keep sneezing or something, then you know this house is not for you. The feng shui is probably not good. Okay, so yeah, so that's kind of it. I think for the questions that today. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so somebody is asking me if how do they know how do they know when they are purchasing a house if the feng shui of the house is good or not? Okay, so there are some rules that you can actually follow. Okay, so first of all, if you go and look at a house, or even if you're just looking at the floor plan, and there's a lot of odd corners. So for example, generally good feng shui places is the floor plan is a regular shape, meaning that it is either a rectangle or it is a square. Okay, so if you look at a floor plan and there's a lot of weird corners, or there is like some like parts that are cut off, okay, then what happens is that that feng shui may not be really good, because especially if it has all corners or there's a part that's cut off, it may mean that one of your prosperous sector, if it happens to lie in the part that is been cut off, you won't be, you will forever, as long as you're living in a house, not have that sector. So it's not a good idea. Okay, so that's one. Look for a regular shape like a house and floor plan. Okay, second is that if you go into a house when you're house hunting, look for signs of damage. Okay, so for example, when I was like looking at like apartments like for myself, there are some places whereby you go in, and even though the place is not like very old, there is a particular spot which is really like damaged, okay, and it is natural like water damage or something. So that can sometimes signify that there could be like a disaster star or a sickness star in the area, because this kind of like bad sort of like stars in a particular area can cause things that are placed in that area to deteriorate like faster. Okay, same thing like if you go into a house and the general sort of air circulation and also like natural light is insufficient, there's reason to suspect that there is not good feng shui. Why? It's because a place that has a good feng shui normally means that it has a harmonious and light energy, because ultimately it is about energy. So if this space has a lot of stale energy, then somehow the sectors or the prosperous like areas and all are either in the toilet or in the storeroom or in place that do not matter, or that you do not use very often. And therefore what happens is that the all the bad stars are in the key areas. So when that actually happens, it will result in a space with stale like energy. So if you are there, then you know for sure don't buy this. Okay, it has nothing to do with, oh, because we didn't turn on the aircon, because like we haven't opened the windows for a really long time or whatever. Okay, now somebody asked, would you have bedroom feng shui tips for singles to find life partner? Okay, so this is a common misconception. Okay, feng shui tips for looking for a partner has to be focused on the house and not the bedroom. If I give you a romance spot to put in your bedroom, yes, you may attract partners, but you may attract partners who may not want to commit, or maybe only out to have fun, or so that's one thing. So it is actually far better to look for actually the romance star spot in your whole apartment. Okay, and then to place, for example, like a rose quartz there, or like to have a little sort of like altar where you can manifest like the life partner of your life. Okay, so for example, if you already know like in your house where your romance spot is, okay, and the romance spot is calculated based not just on your feng shui but also your birth chart, then what you can do is you can have a little altar there where you can put like flowers, and then maybe write out like what kind of a life partner you want to attract, and then put it under like a love crystal, which could be a rose quartz, a rhodochrosite, a rhodonite, etc. Okay, so then you'll be able to find a committed life partner that is good for you. Okay, if you only activate the romance star in the bedroom, it will not help you to find a committed life partner. Okay, so yeah, so I hope that answered like your question about bedroom feng shui tips. uh no, so the the it's not the southwest of the house all the time. So for example, it's not the southwest of the house, so you're trying to actually we first of all we have to look at your birth chart and understand sort of what your sort of like romance like direction like is. Okay, then after that we match it to your house and then we find like the spot. So there isn't like a specific like, oh, southwest is always the romance. That is not that. Okay, sometimes it can be the east, sometimes it can be the west. Some people, yes, it could be like southwest or something, but usually the spot is just like the wealth spot for everybody also differs based on the house configuration. So therefore the romance spot for the person also differs. Okay, okay, now does the workplace work the same as homes? uh so yes, the workplace will work the same as homes. It's just that we will have a different set of parameters when we look at it. Okay, why? Is because feng shui for homes, we focus on attracting of abundance, but also balance like with health, especially, and human like harmony. Okay, and of course, in homes, we if you are single, we'll also look at like what is how to enhance like your romance. If you are married, then we will also look at how do you enhance like the maybe relationship like of like the family. um so with homes we are more focused on your personal interests. Okay, in workplace is more interesting sometimes as a feng shui like practitioner, because in workplace there are a few things that we look at. Okay, so the feng shui mapping is similar, but the parameters in which we map is different. So for example, in a workplace, if you are the boss, and I assume you would be if you are asking us to do the feng shui audit, you need to be in the best position in your workplace. Okay, if you're not in the best position in the workplace, then it's very easy for your employees to kind of like step over you or not do what you say. Okay, or not be supporting you. Okay, secondly, your employees should be sitting in the spaces where human harmony is good. Why? Is because especially if your business is service related, then you need sort of your employees to be having not just good harmony working as a team, but also having good relationships like with the clients. So therefore you want to make sure that the people that are sort of like that you're employing actually are in a good human harmony space, you know. And then at the same time, in a workspace, you want to make sure that you are activating your like wealth spot, because after all, the whole point of a business is to make money. Okay, and where your wealth spot is can differ based on the industry that you're in. So for example, if you're in an industry where like restaurants or like hair salons or spa or something, where you have a cash counter, then your cash counter needs to be in a prominent space. And apart from like where it should be placed, there could be also certain sort of suggestions like color or what should be placed on it, how high it should be, should people be seated, where exactly should your cash register be placed, and like in which direction it should be facing, things like that. So therefore, it is a little bit more particular when we're doing it for the workplace than for like the home. Okay, and in the workplace, for example, if you are the boss and you have a safe, then then you need to let us know, and then we will designate the best place for the safe like as well. Okay. Um, then second question from Fiona, in terms of constantly changing feng shui, do we do an audit yearly? Okay, so just a quick explanation like about this. Let me see if I can show you some example. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay. So the base feng shui, which we call the resident feng shui, is actually different from it's actually different from like your annual sort of like audit. Okay. So let me try and show you. Okay. Let me show you. I will share this report, which I have permission to share. Oh, wait, this is the wrong one. Okay. So this is last year where we did for, oops. Oh, I can't share this, it's upside down. Give me one sec. I'm trying to. Oops, sorry, I don't have the map. Okay, never mind. Let me just quickly tell you. Okay, so basically what happens is that when we first do the feng shui, this is your residence feng shui. The residence feng shui is similar to the birth chart of like a person. Okay, so because when we chart the residence feng shui, it basically takes into account in which year that building is built. Okay, so this becomes your resident feng shui, which is applicable throughout the time that you are living in that space. Okay, so when the sort of like annual like audit comes in, what it does, it shows how the different sort of like areas can sort of like interact. Okay, so maybe I can share this particular map. It's a picture. Oops. Here you go. Okay, so if you see this, okay, you will see that there are actually sort of like these ones here where there are two numbers side by side. That's the residence that is the residence like feng shui. So these are actually applicable throughout the time that my client is staying here. Okay, and then when you look at this one, the stars here, okay, this one's actually what have like the annual star. So for example, what happens is that the ninth, so this is an unusual one because she actually has a lot of duplication energy this year. So the annual ninth star is duplicating with the resident ninth star. So all the prosperous energy is doubled, but if there is a disaster star that is duplicated, that will also be doubled. Okay, then same thing here. You see there's a 4-star here. So the 4-star is actually called the romance and popularity star as well. So it is duplicating with the resident star here. So that means she will be more popular this year. Her social life will be better as well. Then here, the annual 3-star is duplicating with the residence 3-star. Okay, so not everybody will have this duplication effect. It could be like the tree star is flying into like a space where there's no tree. Then what it does is that it actually either enhances or it reduces the energy of the original star that is there. Okay. Oops. How do I reduce this? Oh wait, you are not able to see it. Let me just oops, sorry, I think I need to reshare that. Here we go, this one. Wait a minute. Are you able to see my screen for the photos?
Photos no.
You can't see my screen for the photo, is it?
I'm still looking at the map.
Why am I unable to? Oops, there's a technical. You know what? I will stop share and I will close my PDF. Hang on. Are you able to see the photo now?
Yes.
Okay, so so as you can see here, the base, the blue 6 and the red 9, this is your residence feng shui. So this is the one which is applicable year after year after year, because it is based on the year that your building is built. So therefore it doesn't change. It's like your birth chart is based on the day and the year and the hour that you are born. So therefore it doesn't sort of change. Okay. Now however, when you look at this yellow star, this is the annual star. So the annual star coming in this particular space, what it does is that it duplicates the energy that's here. So a 9 arrives in a sector with 9, so it doubles the energy. This doesn't happen for most people. This is a very special one like this year. So for a lot of people, it actually does not happen this way. But what can happen is, for example, your annual 9 flies into a space with, let's say, a 2 Cygnus star. So when that actually like happens, what it does is that it actually sort of like will make the Cygnus star a little less sort of potent in that area. Okay, same thing is that if your base, so for example, here is a 9, it's supposed to be really good like energy, but if there's a year where a 2 star, which is a Cygnus star, or the 5 disaster star comes into this area, then it will reduce the prosperous energy of the 9. Okay, so that's how you actually stack like the annual audit on top of the sort of like the annual audit on top of like the residence audit. Okay, then at the same time, let me stop share and show you another. We will also look at what are some of the good areas for in the annual sort of audit. We also often look at what are some of the key areas and whether on a month-to-month basis is it good for you or it's not. Okay, so let me show you the there you go. One second. Okay, I'll show you the January one since that's over now. Okay, so if you look here, what happens here is that we have here. Okay, so this is the month chart, the numbers that's coming in a month. Okay, so we have put out the main important spaces. Okay, this vary according to the person's space and birth chart. Okay, so for example, the main door of this client is in an office sector, so has to open and close the door like softly because it is in what we call the Tai Sui star. Okay, then in the main bedroom, it is a normal average energy. The romance and like human harmony sector is also average. The kitchen area for January is actually bad. The wealth spot for the month of January is actually average, and the nobleman sort of aspect is also like average. Okay, so the annual audit will give you a month by month account of what the energies around the main like activity spaces are like, and then you can decide if you're going to be doing something important. So for example, if like there is a like energy like where you're not supposed to be making a lot of commotion or whatever at your main door, then maybe for that year or for that month, avoid sort of like having like heavy deliveries happening. Okay, so so hopefully that answers Fiona's question. So yes, it's good for you to do an audit yearly, but when you do the audit yearly, you still need to stack it on top of your your original, the first original audit, which is your resident audit. Okay. Now, so Jeannie is asking about many modern houses where the house is an L shape or very flat V shapes, and they have like a pool on the back. So they all have missing corners. So sometimes I can see landscaping can help, but the house is not complete. Sometimes these modern houses are shaped to work with the land or topography. So how does Feng Shui work or not working for these houses? Okay, if it's an L shape, we actually would consider it as two different facings. Okay, so for example, when some of the apartments that I have done for with like some of my clients, they live in an apartment whereby the block is an L shape. Okay, so in which case what happens is that we look at where they are, which part of the L their apartment is sort of like shape, and we take the direction using that instead. So which means that if your house is an L shape, what we can do is that we can do two different mapping for both for the different parts of the L. Okay. Same thing for the very flat V shapes. We usually practice doing like a two different directions for the both parts of the L. Okay. When we talk about missing corners, etc., if let's say within the L or within the V shape, that particular arm is a full rectangle or is a full rectangle, then there should not be an issue with the Feng Shui. Okay, so but Feng Shui works for like for sort of like the like houses that are shaped like that, because there's also a possibility that if you Feng Shui the land, you can decide which parts of the land you want to build like your house on, and you can even do it such that the missing corners are the corners with the disaster star, in which case you will actually have a near perfect Feng Shui house. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Jeannie. Okay, now Jing Yuan is asking, if you stay in a 2-level condo, the top floor is a roof terrace open to the sky, rain, and sun, and the level below is the home we stay. The important part is the level we stay, or both levels are important. Okay, the important part is the level you stay, because the Feng Shui is about harmonization of your environment but which is within your control. Okay, your roof terrace technically is not really within like your control, unless it's sort of like sheltered and you put sort of like tables and everything, in which case we can also do like the Feng Shui for both levels and then tell you like where to sort of put like certain things. Okay, but usually we actually sort of like have the we actually sort of like Feng Shui the level in which you live in. Okay, now with the sun shining onto the level below, is this good or bad for Feng Shui since there's too much light? Okay, I think that for Feng Shui there isn't such a thing as a too much light. Okay, so I would say that it also depends on which direction the light is actually coming in. And also nowadays, like with modern, let's say, interior design and all, you can resolve if it's too much light. And also too much light, I feel sometimes it's really a preference. So if you feel that there's too much light for you, you can actually have a designer come in or a contractor come in and sort of adjust like something, maybe put like some filters on your windows or something. But technically for feng shui, there isn't something like, oh, it's bad because there's too much light. Okay. Okay, the feng shui yearly chart follows the like follows actually the first day of spring, which is basically the 4th of February, okay, and not 1st of January. And it also does not follow Chinese New Year. So basically, the annual sort of like audit will always so if you ask us, if commission us to do in December, we'll give you the last month of which is the January part, but the actual sort of like year starts on the 4th of February onwards, and we'll give it to you until the January next year. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Jing Yuan. Okay, now we have another like 13 minutes, so is there anybody else who have any other questions? Okay, so somebody is asking me if like they read things like books, or they watch like Chinese New Year programs, will tell you that you can actually place like certain things in certain parts of the house or facing certain direction, and it can bring you wealth and things like that. Okay, now that is not always true for everyone. Okay, and a lot of times it also goes back to your birth chart and your luck. So for example, if you have a great birth chart and you're very lucky, then technically wherever you place whatever they advise you, generally you'll be in a good space and you would get like the wealth, success, or health, or whatever that you're looking for. Unfortunately, if your luck is not that good, then you may find that randomly placing something like that with may not really help you. Okay. Of course, there is also sometimes a placebo effect, I feel. Like if you really feel like that putting something there is going to boost like you up, then you would your the power of like intention is so strong that you actually motivate like yourself to achieve what is it that you have set out like to do. In which case it may have less to do with whatever you place in that direction than with like and more to do with your own like willpower and ability to sort of like manifest and create. Okay, yeah. Okay, okay, any other questions from anybody else? We had some really good like questions like today, so I hope that I was clear in explaining like everything like to you. Okay, so sometimes what happens is that if your birth chart is very strong for career, then in terms of like your home feng shui, you may want to sort of like feng shui it for more human harmony, for relationships, for love, rather than like more like, let's say, wealth or success, because it can be overwhelming like for you. And there are some people whereby they give us like the intention, they give us actually the directive that they would like to feng shui the house for human harmony. So therefore it becomes sort of like so therefore when we are actually working on it, we will emphasize the areas which are good for like relationships and human, and attracting of like maybe help and like a good like support, etc. like more. Okay, so now Jeannie asks, can you mix different schools of feng shui? It is complicated when you try to mix different schools of feng shui. You can try, but in many cases, because I've done it out of curiosity with a different practitioner who specializes in the other feng shui, and there are many times, I would say that maybe 60% of the time, we find that there are some sectors that conflict each other. So for example, like when I do like my flying stars like feng shui, this sector is actually supposed to be good. But when my friend did like the 8 mentions, then this sector is problematic. Okay. So in which case it becomes hard to like reconcile which is better. And then in the end, you may end up like feeling like, you know, every sector is neutralized. So I think it is different like schools, and sometimes it's better to stick to one school. However, for example, like what I explained just now, you can use certain things, like for example, you can use 奇门遁甲 together with like Flying Stars Feng Shui. So Flying Stars Feng Shui to chart the Feng Shui audit map, and then you can use 奇门遁甲 to sort of like decide when is the best time for renovation, when is the best time, or rather when is the best time to start renovation, when is the best time to actually like move in officially, and or when is the best time, for example, to set your bait or something. So I would suggest that it's better to do sort of like that rather than like otherwise. Okay, so Fiona's cat is sleeping in the southwest sector. So let me just pull up the thing. So animals can be quite sort of like sensitive to light energies. So sometimes what happens is that they tend to sort of like pick they tend to try to pick like the sort of like for example, like sectors whereby they find that they are attracted to. So for example, like for Fiona, you may want to check your original sort of like feng shui. Let me see if I can find it. What is in the southwest sector, because the signal star is only for this year. But if your original sort of like feng shui, that means your resident feng shui, the southwest sector is actually a good star. Let me just quickly check it. Okay, so for Fiona, I think your original southwest is a good, it was a nice star. So that's why Greer is sleeping in that star, because your original star is a nice star. So therefore, yeah. So your original resident star is a nice star, you know. So that's why Greer is preferring to sleep in there. So this year the 2-star come, which makes it maybe not so comfortable. So one of the things you may observe is that Greer may move around. So Greer happens to be Fiona's cat, and yeah. So as you can see, animals are very sensitive to energy. So is sleeping in the southwest of your house because the southwest was originally like the best light sector. But this year, because the 2 signal star, which is the annual star, flies into that area, so what happens is that it actually sort of like does like reduce the kind of good energy of the night. So you may find that Greer may start to move around. Thank you. Yeah, so no need to panic, Fiona. Okay. All right, so we have time for maybe one last sort of like question. So animals actually, they do tend to pick the good places. So for example, I have a client where unfortunately one of her good like feng shui stars fell into the toilet. Okay, but she lives alone, so the toilet actually is quite clean and very spacious. So her cat really likes to sleep in the toilet, and in fact picks the exact spot, like just kind of underneath like the sink, where like there where you know the good star is, and loves to sleep there. Okay, so sometimes animals know better like than us. Okay, I also have a friend who, when she was looking for a house, she asked the real estate agent sometimes whether she can bring her cat like with her, because she feels that if the cat likes the house, it probably means that there's generally good energy. If the cat doesn't like the house, then probably the energy is not good, and then she won't even like consider it. Yeah. So if she brings the cat there and the cat appears like calm, then she would say, okay, this is a good house, and she can consider sort of like she can consider like getting it if the price is right. Okay. Yeah. So yes. So we have one time, we have about 4 minutes for one last question. Okay. I hope everybody finds the presentation like quite clear. So if there's anything that you want to revisit, you can always like, we're going to be loading this onto YouTube, so you can always like have a look at it again. And if you have any other questions, you can like let me know. For those of you who are in Singapore, we can actually help you to do like the feng shui. For those of you who are overseas, if you want us to do like your feng shui, we can, but you may need to help us to do the directions. Nowadays, because of Google Earth, we are able to also chart like directions on Google Earth. So if you're interested, do let us know. Okay. So if there are no more questions, let us call it a night. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time like tonight. If you have any other inquiries after today, please feel free to WhatsApp us or to like email us. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening or day if you're in the US. And we'll see you again at the next Psychic Circle. Okay, bye-bye. Bye, everyone.